I volunteered to do this training because I know obviously the market is a little shaky and a lot of you guys who don't have that much experience yet in the field, and it's a little tougher than it was before. I wanted to make sure I come give a little bit of strategies to you guys that you guys can implement. I'm not going to preach. I'm going to give you specific things, right, that you can write down. And I can't go into a whole lot of details because we don't have time. We only have 1 hour, right? So I have to jam in as much as I can. If you have any questions in between and middle of what I'm saying, you can raise your hand at any time. But what I wanted to start with actually is a lot of you guys, I'm sure you study things and you hear things about sales and things that you'll learn. But and the last meeting I had here in person too, a lot of people came and you're pumped up, right? And you do really good for a week or two, and then all that thing just flushes out and goes away. And somehow you just go back into your old routine. So one thing I wanted to make sure I talk to you guys about is why that is and how you can kind of adjust that in your own head, how these things that I'm going to talk to you about today is going to stick in more, and it can carry 1 or 2 things with you. Like everything I'm going to talk about today, right, you can take notes and listen carefully and intend very closely, but if you're not going to take 1 or 2 things out of what I just said, and you can't take all of them, take 1 or 2, and start immediately work on it and add it into your game, it's worthless. You know a lot of things in your head, but if you're not acting on them, they're worthless. And I'll explain to you guys what it is. You guys can write this down and draw this diagram that I'm doing here. Okay, so P, and this is I'm going to explain you what this whole thing is. P stands for potential, your personal potential. A is how much action you're taking, right? The amount of action that you're taking in your business. R is the results that you're currently producing, right? So R is for results, P is for potential, A is for action, and B is your beliefs, your own internal beliefs of what is possible for you, how much money you can actually make, what kind of success you can actually have, right? Now I got a question, okay, and you can answer this in your own head or answer it out loud. Let's say someone, and all of us have a certain amount of potential, right? But starting here, someone who has incredible potential, a lot of potential, very, very smart, very, very talented, right? But they don't believe they could really be one of the best in the company or make a certain amount of money, right? Not everybody wants to be the best, you just want to make a living, right? Somebody wants to be the best, someone wants to just make the living and make the ends meet, whatever it is, or keep your job, right? If someone does not believe that they have a high potential and they can be the best in a company, right? How much, based on that belief, right? They don't believe, right? All of you have certain beliefs in your own head. Each one of you have a belief in your head of what's possible for you and how much money you can actually make. If you believe you can only make a certain amount of money, right? And you don't believe you have the potential of making, let's say, $50, $60, $70, $100,000 a month here in this company, right? If you don't believe that, how much of your actual potential do you think you're going to tap into? Right? Not much. And if you don't tap into, and you don't believe you could do it, and you don't tap into that much potential because you don't believe it, right? How much action are you going to take? Right? Mediocre action, right? If you don't believe you could do it, you tap into very little potential because of that belief, and you take very little action, what kind of results are you going to get? Very bad results. And when you get bad results, how does your belief reinforced, right? It's like, man, damn, I suck. I know I was right. And this sucker just feeds on itself, right? But if you believe in your gut, like you're convinced, man, like I know I can make $100,000 a month every single month here. I can consistently, I have to fund 50 or 60 loans every month, but I believe I can do it. I'm convinced. And no one can come in and tell me, dude, it's not possible, man. The market is at 10%, you can't do it. You're fully convinced. If you believe that, how much of your potential do you think you're going to tap into? A lot more potential, right? And if you tap into a lot more potential, right, and you believe you can do it, and you're tapping into a lot of your potential, how much action are you going to take? Right? Massive action. Right? If you take massive action, what kind of results are you going to produce? Amazing results, right? And what is that going to do to your belief? It's going to reinforce, you see, I told you I'm a stud. Right? And this thing goes back on itself, right? So I can sit here and tell you all the tricks and techniques and things, but if you don't believe you could produce certain results and you don't believe you can change, it's worthless, dude. You can listen to it and you know it intellectually, and you can later on ask you questions about it. You may know what it is, but if you don't believe that you can do these things that I'm talking about, right? It's worthless. You just know it intellectually. You can have a conversation with someone about it, but you're not doing it and living it every day. So one thing I want to make sure you guys all know is like, what do you really believe currently as of right now? And you can answer it for yourself. What do you really believe is possible for you here? Knowing the results we have in this company, someone can make up to 1.5 to 1.7 million, right? There's that, and you have to pay a price for it, right? But that's the possibility there. It's been proven. What is your belief of what you can do, right? And if your belief is X, Y, Z, is it really true based on your real potential, truthfully? So really work on that thing, and I want to make sure you guys understand what are your beliefs about your current income and what you can do in this market. It's huge, right? I'm still making the same money I made last year because I believe I can do it. I believe that I'm like, dude, no matter what happens, I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to still do it because I believe it in my gut. I know I can do it, right? So I go extra measures and try different things and learn new information in order to do that. But if people say, oh, market is up, our business is going to be down, man, I'm not going to make the same money, and you believe that, it doesn't matter how talented you are. You're not going to tap into your real potential. You're going to take a lousy action. Because right now, I don't come into office anymore because I just see people getting lazier as the market's gone up. So I don't know how that's backwards. People are working less hours even, right? And they're more complacent than they were before. And the market is harder. You should work harder, right? And why is that? Because they don't believe you can do it. So they tap in less potential, less action. They get more mediocre result. And this sucker just feeds on itself. And your production continues to go down, right? And unfortunately, we're in a game of sales, right? If you don't produce, you're taking away from other people that are. And eventually, you're going to go, right? So you got to really think about that truly. Like, change your beliefs of what you think is possible for you. Based on I can't tell you what your beliefs are. I have my beliefs, right? And I'm going to act on those. And repeat that cycle over and over again. But what are your true beliefs yourself, right, deep down? That's the first thing I wanted to talk about. Now I'm going to give you guys some specific strategies. I have 10 things I want to talk about. You guys can write it down, and you can ask me questions about it as well. These are going to be more sales and specific sales skills you guys can adopt to that you may not have and you had no idea that was even existed, right? So first thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is listening skills. So you guys can write that down, listening skills. And in front of it, write down, listening builds trust. And I'll explain you what that means, right? So, when you're on the phone and talking to a customer, a lot of people think, talking and then saying, oh yeah, we're this and we're that, we're the second largest, those things are going to build trust. And it's actually the exact opposite. When someone really intently listens to you, right, and when you're talking, you're really listening to them, that is what builds trust. And and I'll explain to you exactly how it works. There's 4 skills and there's 4 techniques you have to use in order to be a very good listener, right? And by listening, not only you build rapport and trust, you also get the right information that you can use later on in your presentation to close the sale, right? As opposed to being on autopilot and just pitching things and not listening carefully to what that client is telling you for their specific, unique situation. Number 1 is listening intently, right? What I mean by that is if someone is talking, right, and if you're just like a dead fish and just sitting there like, yep. So what's your property taxes? Yep, right? And I hear a lot of people do that, right? They don't sound like they're loving what they're doing, first of all, but that type of listening, first of all, tunes people out. Right? When someone listens to you that way. You want to listen very intently. That's the number 1 skill in listening. Very intently. You want to say, yeah, I see. I got it. Gotcha, right? Actively listening to them. When someone is talking, you're really like, okay, got it, I see. Yeah. That's intently listening. Actively and intently listening, right? That's number 1. Number 2 is pausing before responding, right? Pausing between 2 to 3 seconds before you respond back to someone, right? If he goes and says 1, 2, 3, I'm like 3, 4, 5, 6, right? It's like hello, blah, blah, blah. And as soon as he gives a response, I jump right away into it. And I hear a lot of people because you're overly excited, right? As soon as a customer says something, right? Yeah, man, my property taxes are this much. Oh, how much is your insurance? And you're jumping in right away. What that shows to that customer is you don't care about what he was saying. You're just waiting for a moment as soon as he's done to just jump in and express your points, right? Jumping into it right away. When someone says something to you, right, and the customer is talking, you wait, right? You count 1, 2, and on 3 you start speaking. And I'll tell you why that is, because when someone pauses, when I say I just made a statement to Terry, right, and I wait, and then I respond to her. I wait a few seconds before I respond back. What that shows to that customer, this is a little bit more advanced because it's on a subconscious level. You may be like, what the hell does that even mean? It's more of on a subconscious level. What that shows is, first of all, I am processing what she's telling me. So I'm not just jumping into a response. I'm actually analyzing and processing what she told me first. And I'm really listening before I respond right back to that person. So it shows that you're carefully listening to what they're saying before you're responding. So waiting a few seconds before you respond to a customer on every statement. When they're talking, you wait till they're finished. You wait a few seconds before you respond back. It shows them you're processing the information of what they're telling you, and you're thinking before you give them an educated response, as opposed to just jumping right away. Because there's 100 other people that are calling them that are doing the same thing that I'm talking about. They don't pause from Quicken Loans. They're just pushy salespeople. What's going to differentiate you from them, right? These little tiny things add up. So waiting a couple seconds, that's the number 2 thing, right? First one is listening intently and actively. The second one is pausing a few seconds before you respond to somebody. 2 to 3 seconds before you respond, always pause. Get in a habit of doing that. Third thing is questioning for clarification. Let's say your client makes a statement to you about something, right? What builds and shows that you're a great listener, which listening builds trust, right? If you have trust, if there's no trust there, you're not going to sell anybody, right? So the third thing that you guys want to master is questioning for clarification. What that means is this, right? Let's say the customer tells you, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm going through a divorce. I need to have this loan done by 30 days. And I'm looking for a 30-year loan just to keep some of my payments as low as possible. He's telling you the whole thing. You're actively listening. You're waiting before you're responding to this person, right? All the way through. Before you go into your presentation or in the middle of the conversation while you're having a conversation back and forth, you want to question for clarification. What I mean by that is, say, hey, can you elaborate on that for me a little bit more? What do you mean when you say it's kind of tough on a month-to-month basis? Can you elaborate on that for me? And could you be more specific, a little bit more about what you just said right there? I didn't quite understand it, right? Questioning what they said for clarification, right? They make a statement about something. Yeah, man, it's pretty tough month-to-month right now. It's really hard to pay that. And I have a lot of debt. When you say you have a lot of debt, could you be more specific? Are you talking about credit card debt, or what exactly are you talking about, right? Give me a little bit more details there. Questioning for clarification is huge. Shows that you care when you're listening. You're not just listening and then pitching and listening and pitching, right? Questioning for clarification is huge. So when someone speaks to you and says things, question it, right? Say, hey, can you be a little bit more specific of what you said? How so? I mean, you're saying it's pretty tough right now. Could you explain to me a little bit more of how that is exactly? So questioning for clarification is number 3, okay? Number 4 is feeding the information back to the client in your own words, right? Before you go into your presentation, you feed back what they said into your own words. Like, hey, listen, so just real quickly before I structure and strategize a product and service here for you, before I strategize your finances, what I want to make sure I understood what you just said. So what you want to do is, your ideas, you're going through a divorce, of course, you mentioned, you have 30 days before you can close this loan. And you're looking for a 30-year loan to keep your payments as low as possible, because I know right now the finances are going to get cut out and you're going to be on your own. So you want to make sure you have the most amount of cash flow. And you want to make sure this loan gets done as soon as possible, and you're looking for a 30-year fixed loan. Is that correct? Right? Feeding it back to them shows them, damn, this guy not only is respectful, he processes what I said, he actively listened to me first, right? He seemed interested on a subconscious level, not consciously, but on a subconscious level, right? Let's say you go on a date with someone, right? I'm sitting there and this girl is telling me all about her life, and I'm just sitting there like this, right? How is she going to feel, right? I'm like, yeah, okay. So what do you like to do for fun? Like that, right? Super dead. And you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. But what I'm trying to explain to you is it's on a subconscious level, right? You actively listening, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I see. That's on a subconscious, and those little tiny things, they don't know you're doing it. They have no idea you're doing it because you learned what I just said, right? But actively listening subconsciously in their brain, like, damn, this guy cares. He's really listening to me. The other guy on the phone wasn't doing that. He sounded like a dead fish, right? And when you pause before you respond, most of these people cut people off, and I still hear on the phone, the guy's talking, you just cut him off and you start talking about what you're saying in the middle of what the guy's saying, right? When you're speaking and I pause, I respectfully wait a few seconds, I process what you say before I respond. That's again on a subconscious level, not on a conscious, but on subconscious, right? They're like, whoa, wow, this guy really cares. He's really a professional, like a doctor, right? If you go to a doctor and the guy's like, what's going on with my liquors? Okay, well, what else is hers? The guy always pauses, okay. What else, right? They always pause a few seconds, right? Waiting and getting that tiny pause, that's the number 2 thing. Number 3, questioning for clarification. Explain me a little bit more about what you mean by your situation. I want to make sure I understand. Right? When you said this, can you explain me what exactly you mean by that? I mean, how long has that been going on? Questioning it for clarification is the 3rd one. 4th one is feeding it back before you go into presentation on every single loan. Feeding back what they said in that entire conversation to them before you present, before you structure a loan. Those are the 4 things that you guys can take from active listening and improving your listening skills. And when you have this skill, you're like, okay, I need to actively listen. I have to always pause before I respond to someone, right? I have to question things in the middle of what they're telling me for clarification. That shows I'm interested. I'm really trying to figure out what they're saying and what their situation is. And the 4th thing is feeding it back to them before you go into it. Say, hey, I really understood what you said, right? As opposed to just pitching products blindly. Right? And you're going to catch yourself when you question things for clarification. You really realize you might have thought they were saying something, but they meant completely something differently. Right? It's also going to help you too. Really understanding where this person is before you go in to present them. Right? And that's the thing I was going to talk about. We talk about doctors. The way I look at the process of selling, and you guys all should look at yourself as a mortgage doctors. Right? Really have that belief. You're not a salesman. Right? You're not a mortgage banker or a broker or LLO. Right? You're a doctor. You're a financial doctor. You have to look at yourself like that. When you go to a doctor, there's 3 steps they always do, right? What's the first step you go? No, the first step when you go into a doctor, right, when there's something wrong with you, these people are coming in with financial ill to you, right? The first step when you go to a doctor is examination, right? They examine you. What's going on? Hey, breathe here. Would you have a pain anywhere, right? First step is examination, right? Once they do their examination, the second step in the process when you go to a doctor is diagnosis, right? Now they find out what the hell's wrong with you, right? Okay, you have a fever. The second step is your diagnosis, right? First is examination, then is diagnosis. And what's the third step? Once they did the examination and then they diagnosed your problem, what's the third thing? Treatment or prescription, right? But most salespeople, they just get on the phone and start throwing prescriptions out right away. Oh yeah, we're doing this, doing that. It's like if you go to a doctor, right? Like, hey, doctor, my stomach hurts. Like, great, get on the table. We're going to do surgery. Like, whoa, I got to think about this one, dude. Hold on. I'll call you back. Give me your number. Right? If you go to a doctor, right, you never do that. They always first examine you. Then they diagnose what's going on with the patient. This is what's wrong. And then they give you the course of treatment or prescription. Think about it that way, right? First, you always have to do examination. Then you go into diagnosing what's wrong. And the third thing is you go into your prescription. So write that down. That's your process of selling. It's examination, diagnosis, and the third thing is prescription. And think of yourself as a doctor, right? That's the way you should treat every customer. I have patients that are coming in. Some of them are crazy. Some of them are not, right? Some of them have big problems, but you have to be a patient doctor. Say, okay, I got to go through this process the right way. But that's the way it goes. Not like throwing rates and numbers out, like just being a product pusher as opposed to a problem solver, right? Most people are product pushers, which is just like everybody else. Very few people are problem finders and problem solvers, right? That's how you have to look at your job. That's the perception lens you have to throw in your head and look at it that way, as opposed to just being a product pusher, right? That you just sell rates and fees. That's not what you are, right? You're a doctor of selling and doctor of mortgages and finances. You got to figure it out, right? That's the new mindset you want to adopt into your brain when you go on there. Not just things that are on a piece of paper, right? That you're like, oh yeah, that sounds great. Those things are really cool. And then you go back and do the same thing you were just doing yesterday, right? If that's the case, go out right now. There's no point of you even being here wasting your time. You might as well go back and start doing it right now. But looking at it, like putting these kind of perceptions and lenses in your head and understanding this is the way it's going to work. I'm a doctor and this is the way I'm going to treat it. And in selling, and especially the business that we're in, there's 7 steps. And you guys want to write this down on a new paper. There's 7 steps into a sales process from start to finish, right? And this is the way you guys have to look at it. I can't give you details on all 7 steps. I'm going to give it to you on a macro level so you know the basics, but then you can go study it on your own, or if I have future trainings, again, if I get some time, I'll come back and explain those in more details. But 7 steps in selling from start to finish. What are the steps and exact courses that I have to take to close sales and have a good business as a salesman, right? As a sales professional. Number 1 is prospecting and talking to the right people. That is taking inbound calls, doing outbound calls, right? Calling out on customers from lead pool, taking out inbound calls. That's called prospecting, right? That's the first step. You have to prospect in order to make sales. If you don't take calls or you don't outbound, you're not going to make sales, right? Understanding that. Now, there's a lot of prospecting skills I can give you. I'm not going to be able to get into it. There's a lot. There's a lot of things I could explain, but we're just not going to have the time to do it. So first step is prospecting and speaking with the right people. The right people you want to speak with, right? The people that you can help, that can also help you, right? That's number one. Number two is building rapport and trust. And I just explained to you one of the ways you can build trust, right? By active listening. That builds trust. Rapport is something I spoke with in my last training. I'm not going to get into it again today. You guys can go listen to the last sales training I did here. I talk a lot about rapport and how you can build rapport on a conscious and an unconscious level, right? And that one is a really good training. So about the second step, building rapport. Building trust, I just explained how you can do that. But building rapport is the previous training you guys can go listen to. And I explain a lot about how you can build rapport. Third one is asking questions to identify needs, wants, and pain. So first is prospecting, talking to the right people. Second step is building rapport and trust. Third thing is asking the right questions to find their needs, their wants, and their pain. Right? If you don't ask and you assume, you will have very low sales. As simple as that. You have to ask.
Can you elaborate just on that one a little bit, on somebody that's a little closed, that's not opening up, to figure out their needs, wants, and pain? Because I think that's really powerful. And I know you said you can't really elaborate, but can you do just a little bit on that one?
As far as what someone is that's not opening up to you?
Somebody that's not opening up, how to discover their needs, wants, and pains. Like what
you didn't do the second step. You're not in rapport. Right? Rapport is a relationship of responsiveness. When I'm totally responding to this person, that person is totally responding back to me, right? That's being in rapport with them. That's what a rapport, that's what it is, a relationship of responsiveness. They are responding to me and I'm responding to them. If they're not responding to you, you're not in rapport. So you can't ask questions if you're not in rapport. That's why there's a 7-step from start to finish. You have to take one by one to go to the very end, is building rapport. If you go back and listen to that video, I can send it to you as well. I explain exactly, I have 30 minutes on rapport of how you can do it. So you started from the very, very beginning of, okay, I need a prospect. Now I'm prospecting. Now I got a prospect. Now I got to get into and use my techniques and skills about how to build rapport. Because if I don't have rapport, if I ask this question, how much money he has left over every month, he's going to hang up on me. Because I'm not in rapport. He's not responding to me. He doesn't trust me yet. He's not in a relationship of responsiveness with me yet, right? He's not going to give you the right response. So I could elaborate on it for you, but that's going back to rapport. I have a perfect video. You have to watch it, and it'll give you the answers to that question. Once you do the third step, right, you prospect, you spend block timing, doing your prospecting, you build rapport and trust with people, right? You learn that skill. Third thing is asking the right questions, right? Once you ask the right questions, you did your diagnosis and your examination. The third thing is your presentation. The fourth thing is your presentation. That's number 4, is presentation. And I also talk about there's an art to a presentation. There is a way that you present. When you go into it, before you present and while you present, there is orders of things you want to do in a presentation, right, that gives you a successful result, because you have to build certainty in your product and services in a presentation. There's a way to do that. That's also in my previous video. I'm sorry if I can give those answers to you now. I just won't have the time because I have other topics that I want to make sure I cover. But the fourth thing is your presentation. So you prospect, you build rapport and trust with people, you get good at that, you ask the right questions. I also have the questions I can pass out to you guys via email. Presentation is the next thing. Once you do your presentation, for the most part, to me, I do the right probing in the beginning. I usually have very little resistance at the end. But once you do your presentation, most of us have to go over objections and questions and concerns they have. They're always going to object you to something. Oh, I'm not sure, this and that. I got to talk to my tooth fairy and this and that, right? They always have someone they're going to talk to, or there's some problem, right? After you do your presentation, the next step, for the most part, there's always going to be some questions, concerns, and objections, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about that today as well. What are the things you need to do when you get an objection, how to handle it, and how to properly overcome it. So the fifth thing is answering and going over concerns and objections. The fifth thing is closing the sale. once you go over their concerns and questions. That's number 5. Number 6 is closing the sale. And number 7 is asking for referrals. It's key to do that in this market. Ask for referrals. So first you prospect, take inbounds, do your outbounds, right? Making sure you spend time doing that. Build rapport and trust with people. You have to go to my previous video and look at it, okay? Ask the right questions to identify needs. I have 40 to 50 proper questions that I can give you guys, and I have it in an email I can send you guys after the meeting that goes over these questions specifically, right? Like very specific questions that you ask that are skilled questions that are going to give you the right answers that you want to hear. After that, you present, then you answer and go over their objections, then you close the sale and you ask for referrals. That's the 7 steps, right? And again, I'm giving you the stuff that are very like macro level. 1 hour is not enough for me to cover everything, so I just want to give you guys some techniques and things and understanding you can take with you, and we can talk in specific in the future. Now, 6th thing I'm going to talk to you guys about is emotional topics to talk to your clients about. These are the things that you guys want to talk about more. If you hear it and the customer has these type of things that come up in a conversation that you have with them on the phone, these are the things that you want to ask more questions about and talk more about with them. Right? These are emotional topics because people buy on emotion. They justify it with logic. You don't go buy a Louis Vuitton bag because it's cost efficient, right? It costs $40, $30 to make it, but you go buy it for $4,000 because it has someone's initials on it, right? It gives you an initial, I'll have a Louis Vuitton bag, right? Or you don't go buy a Lamborghini because it's cost efficient. The Prius is cost efficient, right? You go buy it, it gives you a certain feeling, right? Same thing with buying and getting a mortgage or buying a house or buying a car. Every purchase you make, and then you can look at the clothes and the watches you wear, most of them are on emotion. First, people buy on emotion, then they justify it with logic, right? So emotional topics are very important to always pay attention to in your sales conversation because that's what's going to essentially tip them over the edge to get the yes, right? And write these down. Financial freedom is one of them, right? Being debt-free, financial freedom, that's an emotional subject, right? If they want to be debt-free, you want to ask a lot of questions about that, talk a lot about that debt-free. That's what's going to give them in that emotional state that they're going to eventually buy. Kids and family is a second one, right? Family and kids. Their future plans is another one, what they're trying to do in the future. Yeah, I'm looking to sell the house, move on, or I'm looking to do these things in the future. That's another thing you guys want to talk about, future plans. Retirement is an emotional subject. If someone is planning on retiring and they tell you that, you want to ask questions about that. Oh, how long, what exactly are you planning on doing with your retirement? I see. Have you been putting the right plan together? What's your exact plan with retirement, right? Are you on target to do everything you want to do? How much is your income going to be when you retire, right? Retirement is another very, very important emotional subject. Status, right? Home improvement. Renovations and home improvement is a huge, especially for ladies. They love their kitchen, right? That's huge, right? Health is another one. And enjoying life and vacation, right? For a lot of retired people, going on a vacation. Ask them where they're trying to go. Screenshot pictures of it and send it to them while you're on the phone. If anything, I've done that. Oh, wait, Balboa, an awesome place, man, I love it. I talk about that, right? I know that guy has an emotional trigger with that I want to talk more about. Vacations, health, right? If they have a health issue, for God bid, right? Cancer, heart attack, so they have to pay medical expenses. You want to talk about that, right? So financial freedom, being debt-free is one emotional subject. Their family and kids, and the kids' schooling is another one. Retirement, their status, home improvements and renovation, vacations, right? Stress-free, that's another one, being financially and stress-free, right? If you hear these things in a conversation, that's where you want to put all your focus on, right there, because that's what's going to make this person move, right? So those are the emotional subjects. Now, another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is, and this is Mr. Notorious, Andrew Hill is really good at this because he always complains about everything, but you know, when you when you have a customer come on the line, it's the same thing with you when you're going to make a purchase of any kind, right? There's certain questions your customer have inside their own head when they enter a phone call with you, most of them, that are non-discussed questions. They don't tell you about them. They don't ask those questions, but they have it inside their own head. That you have to know that they have it inside their head. So when you're going about your phone call, you have to make sure you touch on these questions that they have inside their head. Number one is every customer that comes on the phone, the first question is like, do you have their best interest at heart? Does this person have the best interest at his heart for me, right? Do they care about me? Do they care about my situation? Do they have the best interest at heart for my situation and myself? Every customer asks that question. So do you, anytime you make a purchase, right? The second thing is, what does this mean? What does this mean to me? What is this phone call about? What does this even mean, right? What is this all about? What does this mean to me? What will I get out of this? There's another one. What do I get out of this phone call? Why am I on the phone with this guy? Some guy phone called me randomly. I'm on the phone with some guy. What am I going to get out of this, right? You got to make sure, even if they don't ask that question, right, you want to make sure through your conversation you answer these questions, right? Is this worth it to me? Right? Is it worth it? There's another one. What do I need to give up in order to get what this guy is talking about? I have to give up my appraisal, my time, my money out of my pocket. I have to give up my equity to pay cost for this loan, right? I give up my time. What do I have to give up, right? And you want to make sure you answer that question, hey, very minimize what they have to give up and maximize your case, right? You got to be able to do that, whether they ask it or not. You want to attack these questions before they even come up, before you present, as opposed to going into a presentation and the guy rejects you, now in a fist battle with the guy. Oh, no, we're this and that, and you're trying to fight him back, and you're never going to you can never argue another human being into proving they're wrong. You can never do that, right? And most of us do that on the phone. You try to argue, no, well, this and that. As soon as you say no and you disagree, that clashes, the seal is gone. The rapport is dead. The butterfly flies away, right? So you want to make sure you answer these questions ahead of time, right? What would the people around me think about this? That's another one. What does my wife, my kids, my boss, whoever, right? My partner, my family, what are they going to think, right? Before they throw that objection, oh, yeah, I got to talk to my accountant or my wife, whatever, right? You want to answer those questions ahead of time and bring these topics up ahead of time. And another one is, do I really need this now? Is there an urgency to do it now? Well, whatever, I'm busy right now. I'll do it next month, no problem, right? Building urgency that, yeah, you do need to do it right now because it's limited supply, limited time, right? I always tell everyone this, right? In real estate, it's all about location, where you buy your house. That's what's important in real estate. In the mortgage business, it's about time. It's very important, right? You get certain pricing on Friday, and next week right now, especially in this market, the dude is like, sorry, it's gone. Now it's 0.25% higher, right? You got to be able to put that sense of urgency in that phone call, right? And explaining, hey, this is where and before you go into your presentation sometimes, right? Before, not when the guy objects you, oh man, the market's going up. Ahead of time, man, the markets are pretty high. Actually, let me send you a screenshot of where they've been going, right? You build that sense of urgency before you present. So your presentation should be just a slam dunk, boom, right? That's another one. Do I really need to do this right now? You need to answer that question for them ahead of time before you present, right? Those are the 7 questions really most clients have inside their head. Be aware of them, right? If the guy's like, oh man, I don't have time for this, right? And you're Andrew Hill and you complain, oh, these leads suck. No, man, if you call me, I'll say the same thing to you. I don't have time, right? What do I have to give up? What does this mean, right? You have to be able to answer those questions ahead of time for these people, right? And another thing is, I'm going to give you guys another very, very important personal development kind of a skill to have because it's huge. And I taught this to Terry, actually. One day, she's sitting there. It's like, man, I only got like 15 in my pipeline or whatever the number was. I don't know how I'm gonna do this. This sucks, this and that. And this natural human tendency, we all do it, right? When things are not right, we try to focus on the problem and we get negative. We all do it, right? All of us do it. Your brain naturally goes to the negative. And this is a problem-solving technique, right? Any problem, and again, going back to the belief part, if you don't believe any of the things I'm talking about, you can master them and you can apply them. You're probably going to do the same thing you were doing, and you're not going to get anything out of this meeting. You got to really believe that you can take 1 or 2 things of what I'm talking about and master them, truthfully. This particular skill will probably help you the most, I'd say, in my opinion. Not just in mortgage game and in your overall life. For her, for example, was like, man, I only got like 20 something in my pipe. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to make executive this month, whatever it was, right? We all have these things that come up, right? It's like, hey, listen, instead of you looking at this and you focusing on the problem, right, constantly talking about the problem and you magnifying the problem, what it is, why don't you turn the problem into a question, an empowering question, right? As opposed to saying, man, I only got this many in my pipe. Oh, I'm not going to be able to do these things, and things suck right now. Why don't you turn that problem into a question, an empowering question? I'll give you an example of what I mean. Hey, if you only got 25 or 20 or 10 in your pipe, and that's your problem, like I'm not going to make ends meet next month, right? Turn it into a question. Say, okay, how can I turn my pipe into 40 loans over the next 45 to 60 days? As opposed to sitting there, right? I turned a problem into a question. As opposed to sitting there like, oh man, I got 10 loans. I don't know if I'm going to keep my job. As opposed to sitting there thinking about that problem, turn that problem into a question. How can I, right? Ask a question about it. How can I make my pipe over 40 loans or 40 loans over the next 45 to 60 days? Write that down as a question, right? And you write the question down, whatever it is. An empowering question. It's not a question of how am I going to keep my job, right? Hey, I got 10 loans in my pipe. This is an issue. I'm going to ask an empowering question to myself on a piece of paper, and this is something you want to write down on a piece of paper. You ask it as a question. How can I make my 10 loans into 40 over the next 60 days? You do it to yourself. And then you have to write down 10 answers. 10 answers to that question. Force yourself to do it. On a blank piece of paper, any problem you have, right? If you're overweight, if you're not making enough money, if you got problems with your family, whatever it is, it's supposed to focusing on the problem. Look at the problem. Say, okay, what do I want? What do I want? Not what I don't want. What do I want? I want to have 40 loans in my pipe, or I want to lose weight, or I want to have a better relationship with my family, whatever it is. Turn that problem into a question, an empowering question. Okay, this is what the problem is, but I want to have 40 loans in my pipe. Ask that question. How can I make this pipe of 10 into 40 over the next 60 days? And write down 10 answers. Come in earlier, leave later, ask more questions, study sales every single day, go to top producers and ask them what they do. Outbound this many times a day, pull credit at this much, right? Take this many inbounds, right? Listen to more calls, right? Go take sales training classes, right? And write all those answers down and start doing them and start acting on them right away. It's very true. It's a cliche saying that's like, oh, it's 10% what happens to you, 90% what you do with it. It's very true, though. And every single one problem that we come across, especially in our business right now, there's a lot of problems we have, right? But if you keep looking at the problem, that thing just gets bigger, and you just feel paralyzed. Dude, I don't know what to do. Take any problem you have, whether it's production or personal, right? Ask it as an empowering question. If it's not where you want to be, where do you want that problem to be? Where do you want it to be? If it's 10 loans, you want to make it to 50, give yourself a timeline. Write down 10 answers to every question. Problem should be turned into a question. Every problem is a question. If someone objects to you and does not want to do alone with you, they simply need more information. They have questions you haven't answered. It's the same thing with you, right? If you have issues, because the reason I'm saying that is most of us have a lot of problems right now with the market being tough, the production is down, the money's going down for most people, right? And we're under stress. And you tend to just focus more on that, right? And negativity kills performance. You cannot perform and be 100% in and do great in a job of sales if you're negative and you're thinking about negative things and you're thinking about problem. Your mind is like a problem magnet, right? You keep looking at your problems. Look at it and ask a question. How can I make this problem into this over the next 30, 40, 50, 60 days? And write down 10 answers. Brainstorm it yourself. Answer number 1, 2, 3 might be easy. 4, 5, 6 is going to be harder. 7, 8, 9 is going to be much harder. Number 10 is going to be a lot harder. But write down 10 answers to that question. Now, as opposed to you have a problem, now you got a very empowering question and you got a roadmap that you wrote down yourself. I didn't tell you what to do. If I tell you what to do, right now I'm telling you things, right? In your mind, like, oh, does this even make sense? You have to still process it in your own brain. But if you ask yourself a question and you answer it, it's true. You answered it, right? So any issue and problem, think about it. What are the 2 to 3 problems you have right now? Work or personal. Turn them into an empowering question, right? If it's down, you want to ask a question about guiding that thing up. And give it a timeline and write down 10 answers to that question. And every time that happens, do it over and over again to redirect your mind into be a problem solver and not a person that's just negative. And negativity kills performance, and you pass it on to other people. You pass it on to other people. How many people around you are negative, right? But I see that, so I feel the need to come and tell people these things because like these things are happening, but because most of us are on autopilot, you're not even aware of them. You're just kind of going through the motions and the results aren't coming through because we're running the same pattern over and over again. Our neighbor does it, and people in our family do it. People love to talk about their problems, dude. Very few people talk about their solutions, right? And make your mind and your brain think that way, not just in this, in everything. Any problem, empowering questions should be attached to that problem of where you want it to go and write down 10 answers to it. You guys get that? Okay. And the last thing I'm going to talk about is just 4 keys and tips in overcoming objections. Okay, and I'm going to go over some questions afterwards. So, this is a huge one for most people, right? How do you overcome objections? People say no, how do you overcome that? How does that work? I'm going to give you 4 tips of how you can do it. There are no secret words and lines you could say that's going to like, the guy says this, say that. And that's like the guy's going to like, it's going to happen automatically, right? Just some basics, sales that are over 100 years old. Like when you get an objection, someone rejects you, first you have to understand and change your psychology about when someone objects you. When someone objects you and says no, that means they're in need of more information. There's information that's missing. So understand that when someone gives you an objection, they're not doing anything personal against you. It's nothing against you. It's just in the need for more information, right? They are not certain yet. When someone says no, all they're saying is, I'm not certain this is the right thing. I am not certain. That's all they're saying. That's what that means, right? So change your mindset when you get an objection. It's not against you or your product or our rates and fees are higher. All they're saying is, dude, I'm not certain yet. I need more information. That's what that message of no means. Understand that. And when you first understand that, the second thing is most people when you get objection, your fight or flight goes on. And all of a sudden you want to right away get on like, dude, what do you mean? All of a sudden you start attacking the other person. And your tone of all of a sudden you're this nice guy all the way through. Yeah. Well, you don't want to do this? What do you mean? Right? All of a sudden you turn against the guy. And all of a sudden everything turns the other way around, right? Well, first understand when someone says no to you, they're not saying no to you. They're just not certain about what you're talking about. They need more information, right? So first, learn to relax. When you get an objection, control your in general and control your emotions and just relax. First, just be very calm when you get objections. No big deal. I have no attachment to this deal. No big deal. Very calm. The second thing you want to do once that's done is ask a simple question. I always do this. When someone objects me, I don't try to give an answer right away. First, I calm down. I'm like, okay, there's more information that needs to be given. This person is not certain about what I'm talking about yet, right? And the next thing I do is I ask a simple question. When I mean, like the guy says, no, I don't think this is going to work for me, right? I ask a simple question. Say, how so? What do you mean by that? Could you be a little bit more specific why you say that? How so, though? And the reason I ask that question is because it buys me some time, right? When this person throws me an objection, oh man, I don't think that's going to work for me. The cost is too high. First, I relax and I ask a simple question. The reason I ask a question is a few things. First of all, when I ask a question, I am forcing that person to respond to my question. So it first redirects their mind about the objection that they were giving me. And I ask a simple question and redirect them and I force them to give me an answer. What that does, it gives me 10 to 15 seconds to think. Say, okay, calm down, there's no problem. This is just a sales objection, right? I know exactly what's happening. And by the time they try to give me the response back, I can go into describing and asking more questions, right? So first you want to relax. Anytime you get an objection, always respond with a question. Always. It's like someone throws a bullet at you, you just reflect that bullet somewhere else, right? And the person gives you an answer, gives you some time to think, right? Okay, calm down, and I can think logically as opposed to responding right away and ruining that for one simple objection or 2 simple objections, right? And you have to look at objections as problems to be solved. So, for example, if someone throws it to me, hey, I don't want to do this, the timing doesn't work. You don't want to overcome an objection or handle an objection. You want to learn to minimize. And what I mean by that is you want to let that person's objection be there, right? But you want to build your case back up. And what I mean by that is this, and this doesn't happen just at the very, very end, that you're going to say some magic lines and it's going to work. This happened all the way through the entire sales process, right? So you want to let that objection, the money or the time or whatever, you want to let it be there. right? First, you ask a question to that person, so you give yourself some time and force them to give you an answer. And what you want to do is you want to build your case up. Say, hey, man, I totally understand that timing doesn't work for you. Just so we can figure out what time might potentially work. I wanted to ask you a few quick questions. Do you mind? Is that okay with you? Is that appropriate? Right? It allows the other person to calm down when you ask a question that way, when someone gives you an objection. And say, hey, man, the reason I'm saying that is because, earlier when we were talking, these are the things that you told me. You told me that you're going through this rough time. You told me that right now things are very hard for you and you're paycheck to paycheck. You don't see a future with what's going on. I mean, how do you see the future with this going if you don't do this, right? Why is it that's holding you back? Because, I mean, if you think, does what I'm giving you make sense, at least based on what we talked about? Because you told me you're going through this. And I'm keeping my tone of voice very calm and relaxed, right? You told me this is what's happening. You told me you're going to have all these problems if you don't change. And you told me all these problems you had in the past and the present. I mean, how do you see the future if you don't change this? Does what I'm giving you at least make sense? Like, yeah, it makes sense. And is there anything with the company that you don't feel comfortable with? Or the organization? No, I love the company, right? I think you guys are great. How about myself, personally? Do you enjoy working with me? Do you think I've been helpful and professional? Yeah. But with all due respect, I mean, if I make sense, and the company makes sense, and the service that we're providing to you makes sense, then what is it? Help me understand so I make sure there's something I haven't missed. And I turn this into a very cooperative question-asking process to understand what's missing, because there's something behind that's missing. I don't want to say some random line, oh yeah, do this, and some stupid line that's going to be every other salesperson learned on YouTube comes and says, right? You throw these stupid lines out thinking they're going to work. First, when someone objects to you, be very calm. Best way to overcome objections is being very calm, relaxed, cool, no big deal. I'm not attached to this deal. Very calm. Yeah, how so? Help me understand that. I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier. You told me about this. You told me about this. And reiterate what they were saying. Feed them back. Hey, these are the things you told me, right? And ask more and more questions. Make it a cooperative process, right? I do have some really good videos that I'm going to give to Giorgio that he can pass on to you guys. Because we're running out of time, I want to make sure I have some time to answer some questions for you guys about what I just said about overcoming objection, how to handle it the right way, and all the internal skills you have to learn in order to be very good at answering those questions and handling them very well. So you don't become a panic person that just jumps and attacks the other person. You're very calm and you handle it properly like other salespeople don't, because they have the same questions to other salespeople too. And those people most likely will mess up because they don't have this information, right? So I'll give the things that I got to do. My homework for you guys is I got to give you guys the questions, the effective questions that are emotional and logical questions that are skilled questions you want to ask. The video and rapport is on the website that you can watch. It also explains that and also explains how to go through your presentation the right way. And then I'm also going to send some videos to Giorgio you guys can watch on your own time about overcoming objections and just changing your entire beliefs about what objections are, going back to the beliefs that I was talking about. And that's pretty much right there. If you guys have any questions, please go ahead and ask me. We have like 10 minutes before we can finish this up.
What's like a good strategy that you use going through Loophole?
That's going to be a different topic, dude. That's like, I got to show you, man. What we talked about, we can ask questions about that. Damn, you guys are in a deep state of mind, dude. I love it. Go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so you said like when you pause as well, are you pausing like every single time that they give you a response, right? Every single time you pause, or is it specific times based on what they're telling you is when you pause and kind of create that emotion?
Usually is when they're talking about their problem, when they're talking about what's going on, what do they need, what their problems are, when they're giving you, if I'm asking how much your taxes, right? I'm not going to pause 3 seconds before I ask the question, right? No, that's obviously when they're explaining about their situation to you, right? Yeah, man, I'm going through a divorce, or it's tight right now, or I'm trying to pay off my house faster so I can be retired earlier. I see. Those are the times you want to wait. Not basic question, what's your income, right? Not factual questions that are quick responses. No, but when they're explaining things in depth and they're giving you something that's maybe 30 seconds to a 1 minute long answer, you want to pause before you respond. Yeah.
Taking into account today's market, obviously, whenever people are starting up the call, right when you get a warm transfer sent over to you,
Yeah.
right when they kind of address, I've been seeing around what's happening on the market, I know what's going on. obviously you want to be able to address like the elephant in the room. Do you have a specific type of pattern that you use in order to address that and kind of dangle a carrot in front of them so you can be able to go through the transfer successfully, full credit, and then be able to get to the pitch? Well, I know that's a very broad-ended question, if anything.
That's a crazy question, dude.
But how are you able to address that going into when?
What do you mean by dangling the carrot, though? I don't quite get that
Because
yet.
obviously, if they're saying like, I have a 3.5% interest rate,
Yeah.
no debt, what are you going to be able to do for them?
No worries, sure.
How are you going to be able to take them through that to the end?
So no, absolutely, I can help you. So tell me, what was the idea behind refinancing? What were you thinking about doing
I want
exactly?
to save money on a monthly basis.
Yeah, sure,
Get
of
my
course.
rate lower to do that.
Absolutely, perfect. Let me pull up your property real quick, and I'll be able to go over all the details with you right away. And I pull up the address, confirm their data, and I go right into my question. I continue to ask the question. Just ignore that. I don't care. Yeah, no problem. I don't hear the rate. Imagine every person is at 10%, dude. Everyone's at 10. They say they're at 2%. Oh, yeah, great. I have a 1%. Sure, yeah, no problem. Yeah. We're actually giving negative interest rates now. Let's see if you qualify, right? Let's see if you qualify for it, right? Just ignore that. Ignore that. Because some people lie to you about their rates just so they can see, get off the phone or to see what's available. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. When they come in, they have those questions in their mind. It's very important to know every phone call you take, they have all those internal questions that they're already asking themselves, right? Does this person have the best interest at heart for me? What does this mean? What do I have to give up? Yeah, is it worth my time, right? Those questions are already there, presupposed in that. So you understand how to respond when someone comes at you strong or trying to what's the right on? Let's get cut to the chase. This and that. They're not trying to give you the time of the day. Okay, I know. They have these questions in their head. All right, so I just ignore it. No problem, sure. As if they told me it's 10% rate. And I'll continue on with it.
In the 7 steps of selling, when
Yeah.
you ask the questions, find the ones and pains,
Yeah.
that's after you build rapport so you can get the right answers, and is that before you're pulling credit to ask those questions, or is that more like before pricing?
I would say
I
that
mean,
is
that's
part
what
of
it's
building rapport.
It is, yeah. It's part of building rapport, and it depends, right? If I'm like 50% in rapport with this guy, there's certain questions that are hard questions that I can't ask, right?
Yeah.
And I give you an example of what I mean by that. Like I tell you, how much money do you normally have left over every month? Man, I'm paycheck to paycheck, right? Right. How long has that been going on? Right? Because when I was talking about these emotional subjects, by the way, just so you guys know, is you'd ask a borrower that question, an average sales guy, here's the guy's paycheck to paycheck. It's like, okay, let me go ahead and pull your credit. Or what's your property taxes and insurance? What's your value? They totally just disregard what he said, just trying to fill out the app to present, right? Going right to the prescription like I was talking about earlier. When someone says, dude, I'm paycheck to paycheck, right? That's an emotional subject. I want to stay on that subject. I don't want to move on to anything else, right? Oh, how long has that been going on? A couple of years? I see. And how do you see a future with this if you can't find the solution that you're looking for? How can you see the future with this? I see. How does that make you feel, right? A lot of times I ask that question. Like if I'm not in a rapport with you before credit, and you're paycheck to paycheck, I can't say, well, how does that make you feel? That you can't do the things you want. He's not going to give you that answer to you. So it might be, majority I try to ask before credit. After credit, if there's things that are left that I still need to probe because I'm not quite sure what my diagnosis is, right? I still ask more questions. I take my time. Now I have the credit. I know the full picture.
Is it better to what, like 30 minutes?
So listen, mine is a little bit different, right? I know they teach you differently here. Right now you got to wait a certain time, and it's right because that's how I started, right?
Mine's about 20-25.
Yeah, which is good. 2025 is good. But certain things, I've done this so many times, man, that some people I can pull credit in 1 minute, in 2 minutes, and then I get it, right? I understand it. Now, I'm not saying, and again, I shouldn't probably say this, right? You should not do that if you haven't mastered all the things that I'm talking to you about right now. You shouldn't, right? You should take the steps that company teaches you because I followed them to the T until I became a master at my game before, right? It's like you're a little kid at school, right? You have no idea how any of this stuff works. Hey, you got to take this road and that road and that road, right? Like you can't take a detour yet because you haven't got the game down, right? When you fund 40 plus loans, then you can do that. Until then follow that same step because you need to get that information ahead of time. So 20, 25 minutes, you not knowing any of the things I just talked about right now, it's an absolute right thing to do. As of right now, for sure. Take your time with the client because you don't want to just like, oh yeah, well I'm your pulse credit and I'm going to do that too. No, because you're going to mess it up. So don't do that.
How many times are you circumventing the borrower's needs throughout the call?
As far as like their problem or their pain, I would try to focus on it as much as I can. I ask a lot of questions about it during the call, and in my presentation, I bring that up first. And that I talked about in my last video was when you go through the presentation, you want most of the beginning of the presentation talking about the pain, then talking about how long the pain has lasted in the past. Like the pain, the way you guys want to ever move anyone is when you find their pain, you want to ask questions about how long has this been going on, so you can make them go back in their head, oh, it's been painful in the past, and make them ask questions that talks about how painful it is right now, right? And ask questions about how painful it will be in the future. So the pain, you need to ask questions, right? And I'm not going to go over to cover that with you guys today, but you want to, anytime you find a pain, you want to make that client in their head answer the questions of how painful it's been in the past, how painful it is in the present, and how painful it will be in the future. Because once they can answer those questions, like, man, I haven't been asked these questions before. Yeah, it sucked in the past. It sucks now. And if I don't change, I'm probably going to be in a crappier situation in the future, right? So most of the time, I'm talking about that pain. Like 60, 70% of that time, I'm talking about that because I want them to be in an emotional state of mind. So when I ask for the business, they're not like, well, what's the cost? What's this and that? Most of the time, they don't even know what the rate is or the cost is until I go over it with them at the end. They have no idea what they're getting. At the end, when I go over the lock script, they know what I'm giving them. But most of the time I'm talking to them, they don't know the rate, they don't know the cost, anything. And as soon as I get the yes, then I go over the lock script, hey, these are the terms of the loan. And I go over it with you. Until then, they don't even ask about it because all I'm doing is talking about the pain and the pain and the pain. How long has this been going on? How bad it is now? What's going to happen in the future? Right? And they're not caring about it. They just gave me a solution, man. Find my solution. Right? If you didn't know you have heart disease and you go to the doctor and they had to tell you, now you care. Right? Most of these people are deluded. They don't know they have the problem because they're just trying to delude themselves and continue to do the best they can every day and go to work. When someone comes in and asks these questions like, damn, well, my day wasn't going this way, dude, and let's do something, right? You have to be able to do that.
Your last training on your intro, you said like you asked about the specific goals.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when you ask that, they're just like, oh, I want to lower my payment. What questions do you ask on top of that to continue to build that rapport and then get them to open up more than just like that? Oh, I want to lower payment, lower rate. Like.
Well, again, so that's the first, when you ask them, what are you trying to do, right? They're not going to pour their heart out to you, most people, from the very beginning. Everyone wants to lower payment. Everybody wants a lower rate. Everyone wants to have their house paid off faster somehow, right? Everybody that I've talked to, like 99% of people, they all want a lower rate, lower payment, and they want to have the house paid off faster. That's like every homeowner's basic thing in their head. Like, dude, it doesn't work that way. I'm not going to ask the questions of, oh, well, how much money you have left over every month in the beginning. Yeah. Say, no problem, great. I move on. My job right now, I did a right intro. I got to build rapport. That's my second step. I can't jump into this third step yet. Yeah. So I still go on about building my rapport, asking basic questions, doing my active listening, pausing before responding to certain things, right? Getting in rapport. And once I'm in rapport, then I can ask more questions. And they're going to give me the real answers to. If you meet some random stranger on the side of the street, and he's like, dude, how much money you got in your bank right now? Are you going to tell him? No. You're going to walk away. So, but once you talk to him, oh man, this guy's been an investor. This guy's, after 30 minutes of talking, he's like, yeah, this is how much I got, right? It's with anyone. It's like you go see a pretty girl at a party, right? And you just jump all over her. Like, no, you got to talk to her, ask her questions, get in rapport with her before you could do that, right? It's the same thing. Go ahead. Well, the payments I talk about because they're going to know what they're saving. But I don't talk about, like most of the time, the rate and the fees, right, or the term, right, doesn't even come up until the end, the basics, right? But the payment is obviously what they're going to essentially be going from what to what. Look how much I can save you. This is what you're going to be paying now. But the rate, the cost, the term, those things usually for me doesn't come up till the end. Once they say, yeah, I'm ready to move forward, I say, okay, before we go ahead, I got to read this to you real quick, boom. Very little pushback on that, yeah. But the payment, of course, they got to know what they're paying. Oh, I'm going to save you $500, but I'm not going to say what your payments are. You got to tell them the payments. Yeah. Depends.
I would say the majority, though, of people, especially in a higher rate environment, are not talking about rate at all.
Yeah.
They just sell benefit, that's it.
Yeah.
Most
Most of them. It depends. Listen, again, That's a good question that you're asking. Is most of my stuff 1 or 2 call close? That goes back to the first step, which is, so you talk about whether it's 1 or 2 call close now, right? It depends. It's a mixture of 1, 2, or sometimes 3 call closes. But that goes back into prospecting. That's how you do the prospecting. Certain people I can close on 1. Certain people I know it's going to take 2 or 3 times before I can close them, or even go over the presentation with them, right? So it depends. I can give you more information on prospecting later, but right now I would say that the system that the company initially has that gives you a roadmap, take your time with the client. You're not going to be able to realize what that client is. I know you can wake me up at 12 in the morning, right, half asleep, and ask me some more objections, and I can give you the right answer right there on the spot, right? Because I've done it, so I've gone through tens and thousands of applications and scenarios. To me, it's subconscious now, right? But for you guys are starting out and you're not quite sure, take that same process the company teaches you. Take the time, do the 2 call close, right? Just like when you're going to ride a bike first, right? They're going to put those little helper wheels at first until you can get going. That's what that is for, right? Until you guys can get good at it.
Amir made a really great video about how to gauge whether it's a 1 call or 2 call kind of close, kind of telling the thing. So that's another video you could watch. It's really valuable.
Yeah, man. So like the fact that where the market is right now, creating urgency is so essential.
Yeah.
Are you doing it like random, telling us Reddit, or like you specifically right here, given with the steps? How do you kind of?
As far as what?
As in like creating urgency, part of it, because I'm purchased, right? It's a little bit different.
Yeah.
What you guys are at. But like when we have some of our borrowers on the phone and they're in contract, and the rates are going up and up, and they're just like, oh, I want to wait till tomorrow, or I want to wait till this, or I'm waiting for another lender to get back to me. What points do you use to kind of create urgency?
Well, that's a good question, right? Because here's the thing. When a client says, I got to talk to a few other lenders, I'm going to wait till tomorrow, you didn't sell anything, dude. It means you did it 10 steps incorrectly before. Now you're trying to catch up and say something smart at that stage to try to turn them around, right? Because they're not in rapport with you the way they should be. You didn't ask the right questions about, like how long have you been thinking about buying a home? What kind of home are you thinking about, right? They're not in that state of mind. So when they say, I gotta talk to a couple other lenders, like, dude, I'm not certain about you yet, right? So yeah, I can give you some certain lines to say, right? Say, listen, like I said, give you one earlier. Listen, in the mortgage business, it's about time. Real estate is about location. In our business, it's time. So if you don't mind me asking, right, what is it that you need to think about? Is there something that I've missed? Right, in a very calm tone of voice. Say, okay, well, let me. Anytime I want to think about certain things, I always come across 3 answers, right? Any purchase I want to make, I come across 3 things. And when those 3 things are right, I always make the purchase. And do you want me if I share them with you? Like, yeah, sure, go ahead, share them with me. Okay, well, the offer that we're putting on the table for you, does that make sense to you? Is it something you can afford and you can see it being beneficial? Well, yeah, of course. Okay. What about our organization? I talk quite a bit about our company, who we are, our vision, our founder and CEO, and what we're all about. How do you feel about the company? Does the company and who we are make sense to you? Yes? Okay. Well, if you don't mind me asking a personal question, how do you feel about working with me? Right? Yeah. Well, you tell me that. Just to stay logical and rationalize things for you, if I make sense to you, the product and service makes sense, and the organization that you're buying it makes sense, what else is there to think about? If there's something missing, I want to know so I can make sure I be a better help to you if there's something out of that equation I don't know about, right? Now, what I just said may give you an extra 20% chance to win that guy. That's not guarantee you're going to get the guy, right? But I handle it much better if I missed all the steps prior to way. Didn't have a good intro, didn't build rapport, didn't ask the right questions, didn't do any of the things ahead of times. Now I can use these little smart lines to maybe add my percentages of winning higher, right? So there's a ton of those. There's a good book called Closer Survival by Grant Cardone. It gives you like 180 of, listen to those, 180 of those closes. But again, closing, these things don't matter. If you haven't done all these other steps and you're just trying to throw a couple of smart lines, it's like taking a shot in the dark. You can take the best shot.
You always have those people, okay, I'm thinking to purchase, it's my first home. I called, talked to you. Yeah, I liked you, I liked the company.
Yeah.
But I just feel I want to do my due diligence and check to see if there's just something better out there. And I don't think I'm, asking too much to want to know that I've got the best deal.
Okay. So what's your question?
No, that's
How they
the
would address that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's the mindset that you have coming in.
that is the mindset that that person gives me after I go through everything.
Yeah.
And,
Like, hey, listen, if that's really the case, right, certain people, if you do all these things, the chances of that person, I don't know if this is the best, is, there, again, goes back, I'm not certain yet. I'm not quite certain if this is the best. I don't know if you asked the right questions of me. I don't know if you really found what I wanted it. I don't know if you really know what my deepest why and want is. That's what they're saying. I don't know quite a bit. I'm still logically don't think it makes sense. You could just say, hey, listen, if that's truly the only thing, right? Right now we're moving in. Let me just send you a screenshot. Here's where the market's going, right? Just speaking facts. This is where the market's going, okay? If all these things that I'm telling you make sense, like I just want to see if there is possibility that I can save a little bit extra money, that's fine. We guarantee our pricings. Everyone, right? Any competitor out there, you can go talk to 3-4 people after me. They give you anything that matches mine or even a little bit better than mine by a penny. And everyone you talk to, they're going to be within $500 to $1,000 difference to me. Get a copy of a loan estimate. We guarantee to beat any of them for you. Just get it to me on paper. Let me at least not lose what we have. Don't chase pennies over dollars. That's all. I'm okay with it. I'm not going to tell you not to and just trust me. Go ahead. Talk to a couple of people. If it's even same thing or even a little bit better, get a copy of what they're giving you. I'll guarantee to get it done for you. No problem. Just like Walmart does. You find a gallon of milk cheaper in Target, they guarantee to beat it. Same thing Amazon does. We're a big national company. We do the same thing. Go for it. I'm fine with that.
why can't you just give me your best deal right now?
Because I'll tell you, very, very, very simple, right? If you walk in right now to a, let's say, automobile shop in Toyota, right, and you're buying a brand new 2018 car, there's a certain price that car is going to have, right? I am giving you my best pricing, just so you know, right? But could you go on Craigslist and off some sketchy guy in Santa Ana who stole the car, find something a little bit better? Yeah, sure. I'm sure you can if you want to take the time and spend hours and hours and hours on the phone to do that. I'm sure you can get something 500, 600 better for some competitor to get some cut their prices a little cheaper. I'm sure, of course. But I don't own the company. If I own the company, you wouldn't be talking to me right now. I'll be in the news. But I don't, right? So I'm giving you my best integrity and my best loyal offer up front, and we guarantee any other lender. And just to break it down for you, here's the thing. Let's say you can go somewhere else and save $1,000. $1,000 over a month. It's like $80 a month. Sorry, over 30 years, right? It's over a 30-year loan. It's like $3. So yeah, if you want to go chase $3, I'm okay with it. $3 a month is a fraction of a cent a day. If you're going to go spend your day for a fraction of a cent, go for it. I'm cool with it. I'm sure you can do that. But is it worth your time? You're making $300,000, $200,000. I mean, if I break down your hourly, I don't think it's worth your time to spend an hour to try to send a cent a day, right? Or $3 a month. You can do that. But I only have, this is the best. Why? Because this is who we are. This is what we guarantee for you, how long we've been in the business. And this is it. You're going to go get a plastic surgery or heart surgery. You can go to some guy in Mexico and get it done. Or you can come to a doctor in Beverly Hills. Why can the doctor in Beverly Hills give you the best deal? Because he's been in business longer, right? This is who they are. They guarantee you a good transaction as a company that stands behind the product. Not like these companies right now. As you can see, I'll give you an example. First Direct Lending just went out of business. And we have customers calling us saying, hey, I was in the middle of funding my loan and the company went bankrupt. Now I don't have a loan. You're not going to have that with a company like me. That's why.
Is that worth the extra sun?
Yeah, right? Yes.
What's your credit card number?
Go for it.
How are you creating market urgency without discussing rates at all, or saying rates are going up, or even really mentioning that, or are you? How are you approaching that?
I'm not giving them rates. I show them.
Rates.
I show them graphs and say, listen, that they've gone up this much over the past 6-7 months. Actually, you have your email out, by the way, right? Hey, check this out. Boom. Send them a quick screenshot, right? Hey, this is where the market has been going the past 2 years. It's
You're
pretty
saying
cyclical.
The market's been going up. You're not
Yeah.
saying rates are going up. You're staying away almost from that word completely.
Yeah, rates are going up. What's the rate? Just depends. There's a lot of things you could do.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things. I don't know what specifically you're looking for. It's like saying, I'm sick, what kind of drug you can give me? Dude, I can give you melatonin, I can give you this and that. I don't know what the hell's wrong with you first to give you a drug, right? There's a lot of drugs, but there's a right one for you, for your diagnosis, right?
Right here first, folks, take the right drugs.
Well, there's a lot of emails Alex have sent out that shows that you can ask him, or if you go on your phone, you can see the 10-year treasury. You can screenshot it and email it to yourself, and then send that as an email to your clients. But anyway, that's a wrap. I got to get back upstairs, man. Thank you very much for your time.